Well, back to our top story now, and today's deal on the National Broadband Network. Earlier, I was joined by Mike Quigley, CEO of NBN Co. Mike Quigley, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Well, you must have wondered if this day was ever going to come.
It has been a long haul. As everybody knows, particularly the Telstra negotiation has been long and complex. There's been goodwill on both sides, but it's a very, very complex subject we're covering.
But you're happy with the deal from NBN's point of view?
I'm very happy with the deal from NBN's point of view. I think it's a good outcome for the taxpayers of Australia and a good outcome for communities.
All right, well, let me drill down on that. Malcolm Turnbull's comments first. Going to the cost of NBN services in particular, particularly for lower income earners, and that the NBN should be using some of Telstra's existing copper phone lines to deliver broadband more cheaply, and all these HFC cables, which already pass 30% of households. Couldn't it have been done more cheaply?
Certainly it's possible to do a cheaper version of the NBN. What's not possible to do in doing a cheaper version is to do what the government's done, which is to have uniform national wholesale pricing with a fibre network across 93%, which is going to be future-proof. Very few telcos today, if they're not vertically integrated telcos, will invest in a fibre to the node.
So let me ask you, as the chief executive of a taxpayer-funded company, what value are you delivering for taxpayers?
I believe, certainly in doing this deal, we have delivered real value for taxpayers because the deal with Telstra allows us to build the network more cheaply. It de-risks the build to a large extent, and it also absolutely minimises disruption to communities. We have to dig up less roads, string less overhead cable. So it's a big advantage in that respect also.
You say it de-risks this deal, your deal with Telstra. Telstra shares are so far off a bit at the moment, but I wonder whether they will be when people get a closer look at the deal. If the rollout slows or stops after 20% of the build, Telstra can get up to $500 million in compensation. I mean, that must be quite a high risk given the difficulties you've got ahead of you to meet your 10-year timetable.
No, I think like any commercial deal, the other side needs to be protected in case something dramatic happens. Of course, none of us expect that to take place, but nevertheless, it's a big disruption to Telstra's network. If we got to 20% of the network being replaced, and then for some reason it was to stop, which we don't expect, clearly there is some compensation that's reasonable.
Well, let me give you a couple of reasons. You've still got many contracts to secure without blowing your own budget. Your NBN rollout depends upon Telstra's willingness to get these ducts and other infrastructure shipshape on time, not to be slow. And as far as I can see, it's a pretty open-ended matter when it comes to costs from NBN Co's point of view.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all. For a start, we have, in fact, signed quite a number of contracts. The last one, as you probably well know, was the major construction contracts, and we announced just recently a deal with Silcar to do largely the east coast of Australia, and we're now in negotiations with other construction companies to do the rest of the country.
What about relying on Telstra?
Telstra is a big, capable company. It has undertaken to supply us with dark fibre, ducts, exchange space, and what are called LICs, lead-in conduits.
But its costs are pretty much capped, aren't they, now?
They have made an estimate of what their costs are to deliver all of this infrastructure, and it's absolutely clear some of it needs to be remediated, in the sense it needs to be worked on. That's their job to do as a supplier to us, and in turn we supply our wholesale network to them. So we're both a customer and a supplier to Telstra.
What about competition? There is concern in the industry that with these 121 points of interconnection on the NBN, that only really Telstra has the reach to use NBN nationally. And certainly, there'll be a lot of new players who will be dependent on Telstra wholesaling them those, very important level 3 services. And in essence, the argument from some analysts I'm hearing is that Telstra's position as a retailer and a wholesaler hardly changes. This structural separation is not really what it says it is.
Well, that's not a view that was shared by the ACCC. And remember, the decision to move to 121 points of interconnect was a decision that the ACCC made. And, of course, we as a government business enterprise took account of that. We have to do that. We have to abide by the arbitrator's decision. Our recommendation was to use 14 points of interconnect for that very reason, so that many people could connect to the NBN at one uniform price.
If we then say so, this deal now has Telstra getting to keep its pay TV over its existing HFC cable. It's also kept its Foxtel ownership. It must be very happy about that, so it can offer its wholesale packages. Again, another analyst has said to me that the only change is that the taxpayer is now effectively funding the local loop for Telstra to use.
No, I wouldn't agree with that. Clearly what we're doing with 121 points of interconnect, which are located at places where there are multiple backhaul, that is fibre, feeds into those exchanges, that means many more people will be able to access that. And the ACCC has said it will intervene if that doesn't work successfully.
The ACCC, of course, has got to look at this, and Telstra, the way it announced this deal, appeared sort of relatively grudging. Catherine Livingstone, I wonder if the ACCC imposes anything more difficult for Telstra. Could they just walk away from this deal?
The deals, we've signed a deal, which has yet to be, by the way, of course, gone through the shareholder approval, so it's not finalised in that sense, but it's now a deal that's on the table, signed by both parties. I don't think either party would be walking away from it easily.
Telstra, under this deal, can build its own fibre to the home 10 years after the NBN is supposed to be completed, so that's effectively in 20 years' time. Won't that blow a hole in the 40-year NBN projections and your 7% rate of return?
I don't think so. This is a huge undertaking. As you know, as I've said repeatedly, no commercial entity would build a network such as this. The fact is it will be built. There'll be customers on it. I think no rational commercial entity would then try to go into competition with that. They may
even cherry picking. I mean,
if they were to, yes, it's possible that a commercial entity may try and cherry pick, but that's a policy question now. That's certainly something that we've discussed at length with the government. They're well aware of our views on cherry picking.
Another policy issue, Telstra seems to have made sure that the NBN can't be privatised if it involves a retail telco buying more than 50% of NBN Co. Over what period? And again, why is that of benefit to the taxpayer?
I think that's really more of a reflection of what the policy statement is, and it's just now part of the commercial construct. We, of course, in negotiating that with Telstra, made sure our shareholder, the government, was comfortable with those types of terms, which we did with all of those commercial terms which have a policy implication.
And finally, are you going to be in charge going forward? Kevin Brown, in your absence, recently signed off most of the major contracts, it seems, and you've had this Alcatel gauntlet to run through. Are we going to see you here for the first year, second year, third year?
Well, that's an option. That's a question for the board of NBN Co. I'm certainly interested, obviously, in continuing to do a good job for the company. I work very closely with the board, and I was very happy to have Kevin there to sign the construction deal while I was taking a vacation in Europe recently.
A well-earned break. Mike Quigley, I thank you very much for coming in on your big day.
Thank you very much, Dickie.